a pretty horrifying example of political correctness in Halifax recently, where they removed the Cornwallis statue.
Oh yeah, I read that.
Yeah. So, how do you feel about that? You know, being a Métis chief, and
I don't think it's right, and a lot of people don't, and First Nations don't know our history, and of course I'm a researcher. I do a lot of research, and I've done a lot of reading on our history. So I'll just briefly touch on that. Our ancestors, my ancestors, the Métis, were hired by the French to avoid any settlers settling within l'Acadie. Well, of course, that was the name of Nova Scotia prior to the British colonialism. So the French provided special designed scalping knives to my ancestors, who were first cousins and second cousins to the Mi'kmaq and the Maliseet. And my ancestors, the Métis ancestors, taught the Mi'kmaq and Maliseet, gave them the knives, and for booty. That's what we got paid for. We got paid booty from the French to scalp the settlers. Just a stone throw away here, there was an incident. There were many incidents, but this may be shocking to some of our viewers, so you may just want to kill the sound here. But in Dartmouth, there was a family of 12, and they have the gravestones there to this day by the waterfront, where my ancestors attacked the Scottish settlement and broke into their little cabins, their shacks that they had, and scalped the men, the women, and the children. And it was so violent that the British soldiers could hear the screaming on the other side of the harbor in Halifax. Now that's a good half a mile away. The time they got there, my ancestors were gone, and what they left was all of the settlers. There was about a dozen of them, I seem to think, and their scalps were taken completely off the top of their head, but they were still alive. And in the diary of the general, he wrote that they survived for 4 days before they passed. So, my ancestors did a lot of scalping. And I'll get to the Cornwallis thing, but in 1748, I'll just shorten this because there's all kinds of incidences. But in 1748, the British intercede 6 French frigates that were coming in into l'Acadie, in through the Canso Causeway. And they hauled the ships in under guard into the Halifax harbor. And when they went down into the hull of the ships, they found leather cases full of scalping knives, destined for our people and the Mi'kmaq and the Maliseet. So the true history is there was 10,000 knives found in the hull of the frigates. 10,000, not 1,000. 10,000 was reported. Now I don't know if that number is correct because that was written in 1748, but at that time there was 15,000 of Métis in l'Acadie at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody scalped.
Yeah.
Those knives were destined throughout the Maritime. So what happened there is Cornwallis, when he saw that, he put a bounty on the Mi'kmaq. He didn't want a bounty on the Métis. They had different plans for us, and they weren't pretty, as some may know that my ancestors suffered a severe genocide, a huge genocide in 1752, where 12,000 of us, of my ancestors, and my ancestors were part of it. And my ancestors started in 1628 in l'Acadie. He was the first criminal civil judge in Port Royal, and he owned a quarter of Port Royal at the time in 1628. So, and thousands of them escaped into New Brunswick and into the Gaspé. So that's why we have l'Acadie and Métis in those areas. So back to Cornwallis. When Cornwallis ordered that, he specifically said, when he hired the Gorham Rangers, which were made of Wapano Indian and Métis, were part of it, and some were British soldiers. he ordered no scalping of the Métis, just Mi'kmaq. But the first 20 heads that they brought in, there was an argument at the pay office, because of course it was the British Empire, the Treasury, that was paying for this. There was 20 heads, and the pay officer argued that they weren't Mi'kmaq, that they were Métis, and they weren't going to pay the Gorham Rangers for the scalping. And a big argument pursued, and the Gorham Rangers won the argument to the point where one of the generals said, "Look, just pay them. They all look the same anyway." Was what was written in the diary. So yeah, we looked the same back then. So as we do, we're starting to look the same from hundreds of years of being watered down. But no, we did a lot more scalping. That's all Cornwallis's order was, is hope to stop the scalping amongst the settlers.
Yeah.
And to go a little bit further, my people in the Mi'kmaq were hired to go to Newfoundland to do scalping to kill the natives over in Newfoundland.
Well, interesting. So, hopefully the viewers can understand the broader picture, right? To just blame one individual, one group, you're missing the whole picture.
Yeah, they're getting the true history, and it's too one-sided. And I'm not condoning what Cornwallis did. Two wrongs don't make a right. But from what I read in history, is Cornwallis tried to amicably bring our people together so that that there wouldn't be any scalping or any killing. But the French, of course, who controlled the outside harbors, were still paying my people and the Mi'kmaq to do those evil deeds. So the statue shouldn't have come down. It should have stayed. But unfortunately, what we have in this country is a lot of politicians that don't have a backbone. And the one thing I do find with politicians, they don't read enough, and they're not educated enough. So they can't make if they are not knowledgeable. So somebody had asked me, I could have helped educate them, and then they could have made a decision. If they decided at that time to take it down, so be it. But that's the true history.